Hello, hello. Are we here? Yes. Let me turn off this. Okay, so plenty of things to talk about. Uh, Champions League draw finish. Well, maybe finish because Alistair, I don't know if you're aware, but there has been some problem in the Champions League draw, but we are not going to talk about that, at least not at the moment, because we have to talk about Lazio, Sassuolo Lazio, unfortunately, and Lazio Porto. Champion Europe League draw. So,
Yeah.
Alistair, let's start from the draw, right? And then we go on the bad things. What's your first impression? What's your first take on Lazio Sassuolo, Lazio Porto?
My first take is that you're being far too optimistic, thinking that we're in the Champions League draw. Although I don't know. It's I like it. It's got a nice feel to it. Lazio Porto. Obviously, it's the Sergio Conceição derby. Immediately brought back memories of that semi-final all the way back in 2003. Quite a lot's changed since then, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like a tie that is going to be, high profile enough that it's a really exciting European tie, but it's not completely impossible. But I still think Lazio are probably going out. I mean, I can't imagine Lazio finding a way through that tie unless a lot of things change. But we'll get on, like you say, we'll move on to the negatives in a bit.
Well, one thing that drives me crazy, it's gonna be end of February, the match, and we're doing the draw now in December. And in between, we know there is a winter transfer market. Now, usually Lazio doesn't do pretty much nothing in the transfer market, in the winter transfer market, but other teams does. So, this could be, we could say something today that would be out of date in when the two team will play, right? We hope Lazio will sign some players, but we don't know. But a lot of things can change. Maybe Felipe Anderson come back and start playing again. But
against his old club,
yeah, where I think he's didn't play more than 5 minutes probably.
No, well, yeah, exactly. I don't think Porto fans will remember Felipe Anderson that fondly from everything I've heard from him. But maybe, I don't know, give some extra motivation, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I do. I just think that Porto have a lot more European pedigree than Lazio do in recent years, especially if you actually just look at the last two seasons and see how well they've done against Italian teams. I mean, they're sharing a group with Milan this year and won one and drew the other. And obviously, last season they knocked Juve out of the Champions League last 16 as well. So this is a team that's used to playing big European games in a way that Lazio haven't been in recent years. So that's another string to their bow. They're also a team that will be looking to win this competition, will be taking it seriously. There won't be any of I imagine any of that kind of complacency that you sometimes see from Italian teams when it comes to this competition. And I think we're both in agreement. We want Lazio to go all out for the Europa League and try and do something in it this year if possible.
Alistair, I'm really disappointed. I think we're going to end this live stream now. I mean, you mentioned the Porto playing against Italian team, and you forgot the Italian team, right? What happened, Portoroma? I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, seriously.
That's a good point. I was just thinking chronologically the last two seasons. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there you go. So,
Mi amico Conceição. Yep. Are you gonna check? Well, I don't know if you're gonna be allowed to the stadium, but if you go, are you gonna clap your hands for Conceição, or you're an enemy and we don't care for you?
I think people like Conceição, and you've got to applaud a former title winner, and he's not done anything to offend us. Of course you have to. I mean, I remember when Simeone came with Atletico Madrid. I mean, that must have been 10 years ago now, but he even came under the Curva Nord before that game to applaud the fans and get that kind of reception. And so I would expect something probably relatively similar if Conceição's up to it. I think as well maybe it's a bit optimistic now because his reputation has really gone very high with how well he's done there. But there is a sense of people thinking maybe he's a future Lazio coach because it would be amazing at some point if that
Well,
would
but
happen.
this summer he has been linked with Napoli, and it looked like it was done, but it was nothing there. Then Fiorentina. So, I mean, no offense to Fiorentina fans, but if he's linked with Fiorentina, then Lazio, I think it's a much better option. So, I mean, there's still a chance. Obviously, we're going to talk about Sarri, plenty of things to talk about, but I mean, he could be an option in the future. Karsten on Twitter asked us 50-50, 40-60. What's your take on the chances of Lazio to go through, Alison McKenzie?
Not 50-50. I think you really have to put Porto down as favourites for this. I mean, current form, I'd say 30-70 probably, at least. Sorry, I'm not being optimistic, but
wow. Usually you are the optimistic guy, so I'm really surprised about that.
You don't know what to do now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that pessimistic, honestly, even because I hope that in 2 months' time, maybe Lazio players will be in better form, better shape, maybe more used to Sarri ball. Maybe Felipe Anderson will be back. I mean, he cannot be down for 8 months. Zaccagni is stepping up. Basic is playing better. So it really depends on the injury situation, I would say. But, hoping that Lazio really does a winter transfer market for the first time, I would say 40-60 probably because they have more international experience.
And they've also got, they've got a group of players that have been together for a while under the same coach playing the same football. And I think that does give you an advantage on top of everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing to be said as well is that the way the format, this new format works does favor the Europa League teams who have come from the groups in the sense that you get the second leg at home. So that is something for Lazio because at least they, will come back to Rome knowing exactly what they need to do. And hopefully by then, some fans will actually decide to turn up at the stadium to help them. So that'd be nice. I do think it would be a kind of game that'll bring in a decent crowd, though. It should be.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm checking because it looks like it's official. They're going to redo the Champions League draw.
Or are they because of the ball error?
Alistair.
That is so embarrassing.
Yeah, that's awful. That's awful. And the funny thing, they cannot blame Lotito, right? Or they can, even for this.
Well, again, we're not in the Champions League draw, okay?
But, my dog is very upset about that. Alistair, would have you preferred Barcelona to Porto? Would you thought Lazio had more chances, or?
I don't know. I mean, it's strange in itself to hesitate with an answer to that question, but Barcelona's, I mean, they're in a complete mess. But like you say, I think that in the space of 2 months between now and the tie taking place, they're probably in a position to sort something else. But I quite like the Napoli-Barcelona draw, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fascinating, right?
It's a nice romantic one.
Yeah. And we've been lucky to not get Borussia Dortmund because it was one of the last 3 teams. We had 33% of chance. And I was, Lazio is so lucky that we're going to get for sure Borussia Dortmund. That would have been the toughest draw for us because, Borussia Dortmund is a great team. And the other thing, Alistair, is you have to always find out how this team will play, right? Because a lot of teams dropping off the Champions League to Europa League, then play the B team, not very focused. So, anything can happen. But still, Borussia Dortmund would have been a tough team to play against.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm relieved we didn't end up with either of those 2 teams we played last season because I think it's just, part of the excitement of European competition is coming up against new challenges and new teams, and so not having Zenit or Dortmund again, I think it is better that way. To be honest, I think it's gone pretty well because it's an exciting game. It's a big
Yeah,
challenge, but at the same time, it doesn't feel completely impossible. But it should bring in a crowd. It should,
it should.
activate
It should.
activate the fan base and get people excited. And it is as well. It is the kind of game that if Lazio somehow do manage to progress, it would be the kind of result that would really, propel the team's confidence and the atmosphere around the fans and so on. So it's a big opportunity.
Yeah, and again, I believe that if Lazio players at its best, they have a chance. They definitely have a chance. I mean, Porto is a good team, but it's not.
They're not Sassuolo, so
Say again?
they're not Sassuolo level. So
No. Well, Sassuolo is a very organized team, very difficult to play, especially when you're missing quality players. But I still think we have a huge chance. I'm not saying Lazio's favorite, but it would have been completely different if we had to play Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, and again, I mean, if Porto loses three starter in 2 months, then it's going to be completely different. Same ways if Lazio lose Luis Alberto or Milinkovic Savic, So it can change so much in this 2 months that it's difficult to predict now, right?
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, like I've already kind of alluded to, you caught me at a bad time here, where I'm not not feeling optimistic about anything really. So, yeah, I mean, at the very worst, if Lazio go out with a whimper, it's an exciting tie, and I think it does go to show as well that the competition, I think, has been improved by these
Yeah.
alterations they've made this year. It does make the draw a lot more exciting this time than it was last time. And I think you have to say as well, look, the Italian teams, Napoli and Lazio, went into the Europa League draw. You might even say have ended up with harder draws than the ones in the
Yeah.
Champions League who got,
Definitely.
or
Definitely.
they have Ajax
Well,
and Sporting, and now, yeah,
now they
who
have to
knows now?
redo it, so you never know. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you, which is unusual. But yes, Hamza thinks it's not very optimistic as you are. I say Porto will win. Porto are very organized and press really well. So again, I'm. Can I say something? I'm so pleased to see Sergio Conceição back at the Olimpico, and that unfortunately, seeing Lazio performance, I don't have big expectation. So I'm just happy to see a nice face. Remember good times. Um, I don't know if this is the last time we played
Who?
Porto. 2003 semi-final UEFA Cup. Mancini was the manager of Lazio. Mourinho of
Yeah,
Porto. 70,000 spectators at the match, and Claudio Lopez missing a penalty.
yeah, I do
Not very
remember
good.
that.
Not
I
very
do
good
remember
memory.
that run. Yeah, because Celtic reached the final that year, and my brother is a Celtic fan, and I was desperate for Lazio to go through and play Celtic in the final.
Please don't tell me you were at the stadium.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't at the stadium.
Okay, that's good.
Sergio Conceição's son plays for Porto as well.
No,
He has I think he's 18 or 19 or something, but his son's in the team there as well.
oh, cool.
So maybe we can bring both of them to Lazio.
Definitely. I would love to have Sergio Conceição back. I loved him as a player, and I thought Lazio didn't behave correctly with him. We sold him to Parma in not a nice way. So I was a little bit disappointed to see him go, especially seeing how he performed the year we won the Scudetto. So, that wasn't very kind. Shall we stick to the Europa League or switch to the Serie A?
Yeah, we can switch if you want. Bring the mood down a bit.
Well, you're already optimistic, so I mean, can it be worse than that? Well, the second half of yesterday, probably yes, right? I mean, the second half of Lazio was awful. And I don't know, Alice, the first question I have is it all due to Pedro and Zaccagni coming off that Lazio lost completely the momentum, stop playing like in the first half? Or do you think it was physically logical that after the Thursday match, Lazio would lose something in the second half and Sassuolo take the control of the match.
No, I mean, I kind of disagree with the idea that that it was a game that massively changed in the second half. I don't think it actually did altogether in terms of the style, the way the game ebbed and flowed. I think that Sassuolo were really unlucky to be 1-0 down at half time. Lazio took their chance when it came, which is nice and a bit unusual. But it was really down to Thomas Strakosha. The Lazio were still in that game at halftime. I mean, it could have easily been 2 or 3-1 to Sassuolo by halftime. And then clearly they eventually made that pressure tell in the second half. But Lazio were outplayed, I think. There was only one team really in that game. And if you're watching that game, if you're an alien who was dropped onto Earth and you were told that one of these teams thinks it's a top 4 contender and the other one's mid-table, you would have gone for Sassuolo as the top 4 team because they were complete control of this match. It's easy to blame it on a number of things, but it just comes back to the same old problem. We don't have a good enough squad, a big enough squad to be playing 3 matches a week. And once again, European game is followed by dreadful league performance.
I don't agree totally with you in the sense that I feel that the first half Lazio was creating something. Obviously, Sassuolo, it's a very difficult team to play against. And I mean, if the alien would have studied, he would have found out that Juventus, Milan, Napoli all struggle against Sassuolo. So maybe he would have thought, well, even Napoli then is a mid-team table. Plus, and I think we have to talk about it, without Milinkovic Savic and Luis Alberto, the quality of our midfield had a massive drop. On the other side, with Akpa Pro and Basic, there's more speed. The midfield was faster. And I thought this against Sassuolo could have been a tactic that could have worked. The problem is Felipe Anderson, when he came in, he was dreadful again. And losing Zaccagni as well and putting in Lazzari, I don't know. It definitely didn't help the team, especially when you needed to score. And then, I mean, where was Acerbi on the second goal? What the hell he was doing?
Yeah. I mean, there's there's a lot of individual problems, I guess, but I think it comes down to the main one where you take out important players from this team and the drop off is huge. It's not just that, like any normal team, if you take out a star player, then what you replace them with isn't going to be as good. It's that the drop off is too much. I mean, Lazio were unfortunate, I guess, in Luis Alberto not being fit, and Milinkovic Savic's ridiculous red card that we were complaining about the Sampdoria game, so stupid. And that goes to show why something like that is so stupid, because he was missed in that midfield. And it's just, a midfield of Basic, Cataldi, and Akpakpra wasn't able to control that game in any sort of way. They weren't able to stand up to a Sassuolo team that's very much comfortable dictating tempo, taking the ball and building attacks and keeping the ball away from the opposition. And then in attack, they have enough weapons that if you allow the midfield to take control like that, sooner or later that they're going to supply them with the ammunition they need to score goals. And I don't know, it was yet another reminder of how far this team is really from what we want it to be, what it needs to be. I said at full time, I don't know if you saw, I think it's another piece of evidence that it's another piece of evidence that Lazio are a mid-table team this year. There's too many highs and lows, and you can't expect to lose these games, Verona, Bologna, Sassuolo, to draw with Torino, Cagliari, whoever, and you can't expect to be doing that and finishing anywhere near the European places. Lazio are only they're fortunate that the other kind of big teams have been so poor this year that they're still actually in with a shout of being in the top 6, because the inconsistency has been alarming. It has been mid-table.
Empoli passed us, by the way, yesterday. So after beating Napoli, we are behind the Empoli, which is a good team. And the funny thing about this, Alistair, is that when we beat Empoli, a lot of people said, "Yeah, Empoli is rubbish. Who cares? The low league table. Look where Empoli is." So that's another. Can we take it as a great performance against a big team, Empoli Lazio, or it doesn't count?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Put it down. Maybe we can get Empoli to play Porto instead. We might do a better job.
You know what, Alistair, is I see too many single mistakes. Where is Acerbi on the second goal? How many balls Akpa Pro lost? Felipe Anderson, what the hell is he doing? Too many mistakes. And with this team pressing high, pushing, you can't afford to get 3 points if you make so many mistakes. As you mentioned, the red card of Milinkovic Savic against Sampdoria was huge, and we could expect that. Incredible mistake, again, a single man mistake. But the problem, Alistair, is I was thinking this morning, Juventus pretty much every single day, every single match has 4 or 5 players missing. Milan been 1 month without Ibrahimovic, another without the goalkeeper, and so on. If Lazio lose two starters, it's a nightmare. So this is the biggest problem we're facing. And Zaccagni was playing great. Pedro was playing great. So it's not that you say, okay, the team is simply rubbish. No, we have players playing great, but it's not enough. 2 out of 9. It's not enough, especially when we make silly mistakes.
How much of that do you think is down to Sarri then? There is definitely an element, not everyone, not an entire movement, but there's an element of the support that is starting to turn against him a bit because of the fact that we're just not seeing his style of football as a kind of identity being imposed on this team. Do you think that he's responsible for that? Is it just that he's not having enough time to actually coach them? How much responsibility is Sarri's?
Well, I wouldn't blame Sarri now. I mean, it's far too early. And again, I cannot believe that Sarri said, okay, if you're losing Acerbi, you go and play center forward and we will play with one defender less. I mean, that's obviously a Acerbi mistake. So I don't feel that it's the manager mistake. I think that he's learning the behavior of the players. One example, we started with Lazzari as a starter at right back. Lazzari is hardly playing there anymore. We started with Leva, now Cataldi is playing. So I think he's learning a little bit of... Say again?
Strakosha now.
Strakosha starting. And again, I mean, we can talk about the second goal, but I thought in the first half, Strakosha saved us. Otherwise, we would end the first half already down 3-1. And then there's a question mark I have, Alistair. Andre Anderson played like 35 minutes, I think, overall. Against Empoli, he came in, and I thought he was great. Yesterday, he came in, and I thought he played great. I think he's a perfect fit for Sarri ball. Do you think Sarri will give him more chances? Because every time he comes in, he played well. But, he hasn't been even on the bench in a couple of games. So I really don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was just really surprised by how the whole thing panned out. But I think that to me just screamed that that he was just out of options. Lazio ended that game playing in a 4-4-2 with Basic on the left wing, Andre Anderson in midfield alongside Lucas. I mean, it seemed utterly bizarre. It seemed almost kind of like, well, we're not quite sure what to do now, so let's just start inventing something on the spot and hope that it works, because Lazio haven't been doing that very often. And obviously Marichy we can talk about again, but I just don't think there's enough quality. I don't think Andre Anderson is the answer, like he's some sort of incredible untapped potential that we're going to throw into this team and he'll change everything. No, but does he deserve more time than he's had? like you suggest, then probably yes. He probably deserves some sort of opportunity. I think the problem is he's maybe just a bit too lightweight in the sense that Alberto's come in for criticism for his the way he's fitted into this Sarri midfield. Do we think that Andre Anderson's going to come into that midfield and offer something that Alberto isn't, or offer a way of kind of connecting the defense to the attack that currently just doesn't really exist? I mean, the midfield is kind of the crux of this team at the moment, where obviously the defense is conceding too many goals, but the midfield takes an element of responsibility for that, as well as for its inability to keep possession, which is such a central facet of Sarri's style. And they're not always able to do that. And then it comes to the creativity, which is something sometimes lacking as well. So I think
I
that's
think
the main
I,
area of difficulty.
yeah, I think Andre Anderson is the only player we have in the squad with similarity with Luis Alberto. His ball skill is great, and let's not forget a couple of years ago in the friendly match, he was simply unbelievable. We saw him scoring incredible goals. I think he's a little bit like Marusic, who doesn't believe in himself enough. Obviously, I'm not saying he could be Messi, but in a team, in a midfield where we lack of quality, I think he could be the answer or the replacement of Luis Alberto. So this is what I'm thinking. And, it's tough, Alistair, because people believe that if you're allowing too many goals, it's the defense. Well, midfield has to help. And it's not easy to find the right balance playing with Luis Alberto and Milinkovic Savic. And I think that, for example, yesterday with maybe Akpa Pro and Basic, you can give a little bit more of support to our defense. Obviously, you lose something when attacking. Maybe Andre Anderson could help, but I mean, you cannot play without Milinkovic Savic and Luis Alberto if they are fit. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult to to find the right solution. And luckily, I'm not Maurizio Sarri. I don't get the money of Maurizio Sarri. So why do I have to solve this problem? But I agree with Levan. Andre Anderson definitely better than Akpa Pro, even though they are different type
Yeah.
of players, right?
Well, Agpak Pro, I think, came in for a bit of criticism yesterday. I don't think he had a particularly good game, and obviously it was a big opportunity for him. But yeah, I mean, but when you're talking about these guys, I mean, I just don't think it's good enough. Any of them are. I mean, this is the essential problem: is that that's just not good enough. That's a discussion we're having. When you're talking about trying to play a Sarri ball style of football, I think we need to really, really increase the level in the squad, and obviously that's a problem financially. That's a problem. How is the club going to do that? Going to achieve that? That's a big issue. But can Sarri get them to play in another way, or is there a way of kind of improving the what he has available to him to get the team to play more effectively together? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the midfield, the defensive thing you're talking about there again, yesterday was a good example of that because, we've complained about Reina a lot this season and the fact that, he concedes a goal for every shot he makes, every save he makes. But yesterday, it was great to see Strakosha again making two or three really good saves. But, you've got him doing that and you've got Luis Felipe making a couple of brilliant blocks as well. But again, yeah, you shouldn't be relying on these kind of heroic moments of defending to be keeping them out. You need to be. It's all about kind of shape and structure to avoid that happening in the first place. And you can never nullify teams entirely, but it does feel a bit too easy for the opposition to find
Yeah.
space and find opportunities against this Lazio.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought Cataldi and Acerbi weren't playing particularly great yesterday. They helped too much Sassuolo in creating chances, and this is an issue that, I mean, if a central defender make a mistake, then you have a huge chance to score. And this is one of the problem of Mauricio. You remember, Mauricio wasn't playing bad, but every single game was making a silly mistake. And if a central defender make a mistake, most of the time is goal. So that's a problem. And
You described quite a lot of former Lazio defenders there.
I know, but and that's the biggest problem, and no one was expecting Acerbi to do the same thing. So this is a big problem. I wanted to talk about Marichy though, because he came in. It's true that, as you were mentioning, Sarri moved to a 4-4-2. That was a big surprise for me. But I thought when he came in, he played really well. Well, really well is too much, but he played well. He created the biggest chance we had, right? The red card, the free kick from close to the box, had a couple of good header. I mean, I still believe this could be a good player, probably in a different system or with more confidence.
Well, what I would say about that is that yesterday was, I would say, almost the best position Marichy's ever been in at Lazio to make a difference, because I cannot remember a time when Lazio have resorted to a Marichy style of game as much as that. Because yesterday it got to a point where all that they were doing, especially after the red card, but even before, was kind of launching long balls up from the wing, from the defense, and he had Immobile beside him, so he had someone to actually play off him. And that's kind of like his bread and butter, or at least it should be. So although I agree that he made his presence felt a bit more than usual, I don't feel like we actually saw him doing much that really should convince us that even playing that very direct style of football, he's exactly going to be a transformed player. And Lazio aren't playing that long ball direct style of football very often. It was only because
Never.
it was in their hour of need when they desperately needed a goal, and even then he wasn't able to. I did see someone tag me on Twitter actually yesterday. It's quite funny, saying that Sassuolo should have never been given a red card because you can't call it a clear goal scoring opportunity if it's Marichy who's going through on goal.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about the ref, because I thought there was a clear penalty for Lazio, and that's simply embarrassing that the VR didn't do nothing. But I mean, hitting the crossbar at the last minute is very Lazio style, right?
Well, Basic was one of the positives from yesterday. I think Basic is really drawing.
Yep.
And that's
He has huge talent, I think.
Yeah, and
Alisson,
like great technique as well.
Yep.
I think we've seen a lot more of him from set pieces recently, corners and free kicks and things.
Okay, this brings me to another question. He's one of the highest player we have on the team. Why he's taking corner kicks? I know he's good, but we have Cataldi, we have other players. He was the tallest player against Galatasaray, and he was taking corner kicks. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially because he scored with a header against Lokomotiv.
Was that a header? I thought it was
Yep.
a volley. Well, I mean, because he's good at it. It's a technique, it's a specialist technique. And we've seen in the past how frustrating it is when you have guys who aren't good at it. Because there's not much point in bringing forward three big guys if your corner taker is just going to hit the first defender every time, which is what Alberto often does. Or try and score directly from a corner. It was quite funny recently, last weekend, when there were two corner goals in one weekend. And Marco Parolo was on DAZN as one of the pundits, and he started saying, Luis Alberto used to try and do this all the time at Lazio. It didn't really work, but he tried.
We didn't notice, right? We never noticed that he was trying to score directly. Never. Alistair, were you surprised that Lazio 2-1 down and Sarri takes off Zaccagni and bring on Lazzari and not Raul Moro?
Yeah, I was.
Is that a message? It's not the first time, eh?
It's not the first time. I don't know if it means that he just doesn't think Moro's ready to make a difference in that kind of situation, or if it means that he actually genuinely believes Lazzari can be effective in a more advanced role. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I've said this from the start of the season when we were hypothesizing about what Sarri could do, that I just don't think Lazzari is cut out to be a winger, really.
No.
To play in tight spaces. And
I agree with you. He needs more space.
Just lack of options, though. It's the same thing. Sorry, going back to the same point over and over again. But the reason that's happened, he's choosing between either you bring on an 18-year-old kid who's not really ready, or you bring on a fullback who's out of position, but you can't do anything else because we don't have any other players who play in that positions. And that's the problem with starting a season with a coach who plays 4-3-3 with three wingers. Starting a season with a coach who plays 4-3-3 with two strikers, and one of them is just
Immobile.
not providing anything. Starting the season with Patrick as your third choice centre. I mean, you could go on. I mean, it's just the squad that's been put together. The strange thing is the signings have actually been pretty good. This is the strange thing about it, is that Lazio have actually signed well. Like the summer mercato was quite good. And Pedro,
Finally.
Zaccagni, Basic, these guys have all been like actually some of the bright spots in this season. It's actually the rest of the team, the guys who are already there, that we've had more problems with.
Yeah. Again, I do think that if you don't give playtime to Raul Moro, then he's never going to be ready. So I don't know. I fear that Sarri gave up on him, which is concerning because I think he's a talent. He needs to play. In Italy, we struggle to play youngsters, which is a big issue. But again, I think 4-3-3 is perfect for our Moro. He needs to learn how to play in Serie A, so he needs play time. And I thought yesterday was a perfect option for him.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, it was him. There's Luca Romero was with it, getting a couple of opportunities off the bench, and I think Sarri seems to have just changed his mind a bit about
Yeah.
that, about how ready those guys are.
Yeah. Luca Romero was called again, but he was neither on the bench in the last two matches. So again, he wasn't with the Primavera yesterday, and again he was close to that watching the match, which with not that many options we have, and you prefer to not have a chance to have another sub there. It's concerning. I would say, Alistair.
Before we finish, I have to say we're playing Genoa at home on Friday.
Why Friday?
Genoa are so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they are unbelievably poor at the moment. Lazio have to win this game. Because the pressures after Sassuolo, there's a lot of annoyed people. But if there's anything other than a win against Genoa, that's going to be another level.
Well, you should remind that Genoa against us is always able to win incredible matches. So
This is true.
let's not forget that. And I would add that tell me in the last 5 matches, the only match Napoli win against who it was. I think he has a blue shirt and an eagle.
All right.
Only match they won. Only one.
And that was like an exhibition, like a training match as well.
So I think Genoa fans are celebrating that they're playing Lazio. They say, hey, Lazio's awful in the last matches. So, if we're going to win a match, it's going to be this one. So
with Pandev and Berami and Badel.
We're already starting 2 goals behind, right? Pandev scores every single time he plays against us. So, yep.
Yeah, and you're right. 6:30 on a Friday kickoff. I mean, if anyone's ever tried to drive through Rome on a Friday night at 6, no, that's a terrible time to put a game on. Yeah, 6:30.
It's going to be just the Campanile family at the stadium then.
Probably, yeah. You're going to have to make some noise.
Yeah, I'm ready. Alice, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Remember to subscribe on our Twitch channel. We're live on Twitch. You can find us as Lazio World on YouTube, on Spreaker, on Spotify, wherever you listen to our podcast. Please subscribe. And again, if you want to support us, especially Alistair, look at him. You can do it on patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Support a Lazio fan, please. Again, thank you everybody for listening, and rate and review the podcast on iTunes. This helps us massively. Thanks, Alistair.
Cheers.
Ciao, ciao.